Hello, good evening. It's another Friday. Welcome to News 360. It is live from our studio here at Adisawe Kanda in Accra. I am Martin Asiedu Date.
And we're also streaming live all over our social media platforms. We are TV3 Ghana and 3news.com. I am Bernice Abubeidulansa. Let's take a look at our headlines.
News 360 Headlines is brought to you by Pepsodent Charcoal and Pepsodent Herbal.
EcoBank, Nero Prime Water.
Coming up this evening, residents in and around Weija welcome government's decision to operationalize the Children's Specialist Hospital.
Also tonight, Fair Wages Commission urges teacher unions to suspend planned strike as negotiations continue over allowances and conditions of service.
And later in the bulletin, President John Mahama reaffirms government's commitment to fulfill promises, dismissing speculations about a possible third term in office.
In business tonight, energy analyst demands SIGA compels state energy and petroleum agencies to publish audited financial statements amid widespread reporting failures.
On the international front, Andy Burnham says he is finalizing who will be in his cabinet ahead of becoming UK's Prime Minister on Monday. We have details of all these stories and more. You can be part of the show. Let's hear from you on the many stories we have for you tonight.
Right, we start off on salary issues, and the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission is urging teacher unions to hold off any planned strike. The Commission is assuring them their long-standing concerns, including the demand for a 20% deprived area allowance, will be addressed through negotiations and the establishment of the Independent Emoluments Commission. Our Labour Affairs correspondent Daniel Opoku reports.
On Thursday, July 16, the leadership of the aggrieved teacher unions expressed disappointment about what they described as the slow pace of negotiations with the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission. The unions say their key demands include the promotion of qualified teachers and the implementation of a 20% deprived area allowance, an entitlement they insist has remained in their collective agreement since 2009 but has yet to be implemented. They warned that the Commission had until next week to address the outstanding concerns or face possible industrial action that could disrupt teaching and learning across the country. Less than 24 hours after that ultimatum, the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission has responded, expressing concern over the union's threat and urging them to remain at the negotiation table.
We cannot holistically review the conditions of service of pre-tertiary teacher unions. If we do that, are we going to go back and go and also take all those we've gone into this interim arrangement with? It's going to be difficult because we all agree that this is a stage for us to move into the Independent Emoluments Commission by overhauling the entire remuneration architecture. We all agree it's not the best, and so we need their cooperation.
He is therefore appealing to the teacher unions to suspend any plans for industrial action and allow negotiations to continue in the interest of reaching a mutually acceptable resolution without disrupting the academic calendar.
We will continue engaging the teacher unions. They are our very important stakeholders. They constitute, if I'm not mistaken, about 50% of the entire public sector workforce. They cannot be ignored. But what we are doing is in the interest of the entire public service, including the teachers themselves. We expect that they will understand, and we believe that they will understand so that we will all move smoothly into the Independent Emoluments Commission.
In more news this evening, residents in and around Weija have welcomed the government's decision to operationalize the new Children's Specialist Hospital. They express optimism that the facility will improve access to specialized pediatric health care and ease pressure on existing health facilities in the area. Joseph Armstrong Goldalogbe visited the facility and reports.
For years, residents of Weija and surrounding communities have waited for the completion and opening of Children's Specialist Hospital. Despite the completion of much of the physical infrastructure, the facility remained closed due to unresolved contractual and administrative issues. However, the government has now announced plans to operationalize the hospital while outstanding matters with the contractor are addressed. The opening of the hospital is expected to significantly improve access to specialized healthcare services for children. It will also reduce pressure on major referral facilities such as Kolebu Teaching Hospital and other healthcare centers serving the Greater Accra region. During a visit to the facility on Friday, trucks were seen delivering medical equipment, while engineers and technicians worked to install and test the equipment ahead of the opening. Residents say the hospital would not only improve access to quality healthcare for children but also reduce travel time and congestion at existing hospitals in the area.
They have expanded, giving us another hospital over there. That can, with this one, not all, because the children are many. And so with the new one, they can shift some of the children over there. So we are very, very excited.
It's going to help us, we, the pregnant woman, and then our kids, to have access to quality machines. We have access to more doctors and nurses working 24 hours to help us reduce the risk of high death rate.
Some residents believe the hospital will provide timely specialist care for children and newborns, especially during medical emergencies. Others say it will create employment opportunity and stimulate economic activity within the Weija community.
Instead of us maybe having access to those small hospitals, it's very difficult for us to even have some facilities for the children there. So opening this new one for us is a great opportunity, and we are very happy.
The Children's Specialist Hospital is expected to become one of Ghana's key pediatric referral facilities, providing specialized treatment for children and strengthening healthcare delivery in the Greater Accra region. Residents are now looking forward to its official opening and the commencement of services. Joseph Armstrong, Good TV3, Weija, Accra.
Let's turn our attention to the presidency now, and President Mahama says his focus remains on fulfilling promises he made to Ghanaians after receiving a mandate to serve one additional term in office. Speaking in Ho during his Reset in Ghana tour, he dismissed speculations of a possible third term in office.
The people of Ghana gave me a mandate for one term, and I am working hard to meet the promises I made them. And so I always tell my ministers, I say, let's number our days so that we can work harder to meet the promises we made the Ghanaian people. I note that people have gone to the Supreme Court seeking interpretation of the clause that governs the tenure of the president. If you ask my personal opinion, I thought that it was clear enough. I've read it over several times. It's exactly what it says, but if they want to ask the Supreme Court, that is their business. But I know that the people of Ghana gave me one additional term, and I'm going to work to meet the trust that they put in me.
President Mahama says his administration will not prosecute anyone out of political revenge, stressing that accountability measures will be guided by evidence and the rule of law.
It shouldn't be like we're trying to hound our political opponents or something. We proceed on the basis of evidence we have received. And then the evidence is weighed. And if it is sufficient, there are many times we have reports and all that. Sometimes the evidence comes and it's not substantive. And so you say, if it's on the weight of this evidence, you cannot proceed to court, so discard it. Or investigate further and see if there's something else that you have not found. But otherwise, if a case proceeds, and that is why the whole system of accountability is taking time, because you need to be thorough. By the time IOCO or OSP or somebody comes and arrests the person, it means that months of work have taken place reviewing the evidence. And so I just want to assure that accountability is still our #1 priority. But like I keep saying, the sword does not cut only one way. If we find evidence that any of our current appointees or persons working in government under our tenure also has abused the public trust, the way the sword is cutting that way, it will cut this way too. And so I always caution my appointees to be very careful. Be sure you follow the procedure, don't cut corners. And the point is, if you have any doubts, I tell the ministers every day, if you have any doubt, bring it to cabinet. Let's all look at it and take a collective decision on it. If you bring it to cabinet and we take a collective decision based on the wisdom of the president and all the ministers there, tomorrow nobody can come and hold you and say you did this on your own because you wanted to do this or do that.
Let's go to the House of Legislature now, and Parliament has passed the Tribunal Bill, a piece of legislation that the government says will improve access to justice and speed up the trial of specialized cases. But the passage of the bill has sparked debate, with some questioning whether the country is reviving an institution whose history remains divisive. Evelyn Tingma examines the issues surrounding the bill and asks, is it good for the justice system?
The passage of the Public Tribunal Bill marks one of Parliament's most significant legal reforms in recent years. The government says the bill is intended to modernize the justice system by establishing specialized tribunals to deal with certain categories of cases more efficiently. According to the Attorney General and Minister for Justice, Dr. Dominic Ayine, the tribunals will operate under the Constitution with safeguards to ensure fairness, judicial independence, and the protection of fundamental human rights. But not everyone is convinced. The minority opposed the bill, arguing that there is already a functioning court system that should be strengthened rather than creating what they described as a parallel judicial structure. Legal experts are divided.
I've heard the concerns of the minority, and honestly, I must say they have genuine concerns. The tribunal system itself is not bad and it's not evil, but people made it evil. The tribunal is just a shift away from the traditional court system, which is too technical and legalistic. So the tribunal system gives us the opportunity, the flexibility to expedite justice where already our traditional court system are delaying the processes. I think the government has a lot of work to do to allay the fears and to disabuse the minds of Ghanaians.
For instance, there's a case to do with tax evasion or misapplication or misappropriation at the local level. Fast track, 3 people are gathered. You go there, you explain your issue. The people that understand local matters, how local resources are utilized, they will be sitting on it and they will be adjudicating it so that they understand you understand them. And then we can immediately have a closure to the matter. If you have to refund monies back to the state, you do so for the development of the country. So I don't see why anybody, if you are not afraid or if you are not a thief, why must you be afraid of such a system?
For private legal practitioner Martin Pebu, the character and integrity of the individuals appointed to the tribunals should be paramount.
You see, the main deficit we are all crying about is the character of the persons. We have a problem with character all over. We all are human beings. We have our shortcomings, even including the parliamentarians who are making the calls that, hey, we don't want this. We also know Parliament also has its own issues. Have we closed down Parliament? So let's continue the debate that we want people with the best character. That is what the whole matter is about. It's not about getting lawyers. I bet you get more than sufficient persons to man the tribunals.
He added that the success of the act will depend on how its implementation is carried out. As the bill awaits presidential assent, attention is shifting from Parliament to implementation. How tribunal members are appointed, how cases are assigned, and how the new system interacts with the existing courts will determine whether the Act achieves its intended purpose. Evelyn Tinkma, TV3 News, Accra.
Let's stay in Parliament because Minority Leader Alexander Fenyomarking says a shadow criminal libel regime is being applied under the guise of Sections 207 and 208 of the Criminal and Other Offences Act. He's been describing the sentencing of TikToker Kamila Al-Hassan as the criminalization of criticism. The Minority Leader addressed the media in Parliament.
We, the minority, have called you here basically to address you on Sections 207 and 208 of the Criminal Offences Act. Our demand is basically that these two sections must go. We demand an end to the criminalization of criticism and call on government to finish what the Kufuor administration started in 2001. We have to call it what it is: criminal libel through the back door. Let us not be delicate about this, because delicacy will not serve the truth. When a person can be arrested, remanded, and marched before a circuit court for a video, a Facebook post, or a petition to the president, merely because the content is thought to be insulting, offensive, or embarrassing to those in power, the state has recreated criminal libel in every respect that matters, while avoiding the one thing that would require it to answer for what it is doing, calling it by its name. Nobody needs to repeal the reforms of 2001 to bring criminal libel back. All that is required is a prosecutor willing to reach for Section 207 or Section 208 whenever the words used were unflattering, and a charge sheet that speaks of, quote, public order, end quote, breach of the peace, end quote, rather than of libel or defamation.
Well, in a related development, the Ghana Police Service says it is taking steps to put convict Kamila Al-Hassan before the High Court on the separate charge of false communication under the Electronic Communications Act 2008, Act 775. Meanwhile, a private legal practitioner, Christian Hesimam, is warning that freedom of expression has limits and those who exploit it to settle personal scores must face the consequences.
Kamila Al-Hassan was sentenced to 1 year in prison. The sentencing has sparked a debate. The Media Research Institute condemned it as harsh, urging President Mahama to pardon Kamila, citing the Montier Three, who were pardoned after serving 1 month of a 4-month term in 2016. Private legal practitioner Christian Hesimam says freedom of expression must be exercised within the law.
You yourself carrying yourself in that, you say you're a TikToker, you are a Facebook vlogger, whatever you call yourself, a YouTuber, you should know that we have laws. Aside false information, aside all of that, we also have defamation under law of tort, which deals with civil wrong, so that if you run down somebody in the eyes of right-thinking persons in society, that person will not necessarily have to go through the criminal justice system, but will take you on in the civil court and seek compensations for reputational damage. So freedom of speech is very, very limited, even at common law.
He noted sentencing was at the judge's discretion, with misdemeanors carrying up to 3 years. Mam cautioned social media influencers who profit from controversy to be circumspect.
It's very regrettable, but we are responsible for the things we put out. If you have power, it comes with responsibility. You cannot have power and there's no responsibility. It will be a lesson to other people. You have a lot of these vloggers who vent out very, very, very ill things about people in society. And some of them believe that this is the way to settle scores. It is everything important for persons who ply their trade, if I could put it in that sense, on social media where they make some economic gains, to be circumspective. Just make sure that you make responsible speeches, or you care for what you say out there. Because if you are not, it can render you in trouble.
In a statement, the police says plans are underway to arraign Camila Al-Hassan at the High Court on a separate charge of false communication under the Electronic Communications Act 2008, Act 775.
We bring you some more stories on News 360. Prison is often seen as a place of punishment, but behind the high walls of the Nsawam medium security prison, many inmates are spending their term learning skills they hope will redefine their future. As a new bakery and workshop facility is commissioned to expand vocational education, the focus is shifting beyond just incarceration to preparing inmates for life after prison. Samuel Yeboah Adams reports.
Every prison sentence begins with a story. For some, it starts with a poor decision or a crime that leads to arrest, trial, and ultimately incarceration. Although prisons are designed to restrict freedom, another chapter begins for those willing to transform their lives within the four walls of the prison. At the Nsawam Medium Security Prison in the eastern region of Ghana, inmates spend their days learning trades of their choice. Some knead dough in the bakery, others weave wire electrical systems or master other vocational skills that could become their livelihood after release. Patience Bafoboni is the Director General of the Ghana Prison Service.
This project is a key milestone in the service's transformational journey under the Think Prisons Ghana 360 Degrees initiative. This comprehensive agenda envisions prisons not just as places of incarceration, but spaces for hope, healing, productivity, and national relevance. The service is dedicated to the reformation and rehabilitation of inmates to make them responsible, productive, and law-abiding citizens.
Vocational officers say the transformation often begins sooner than expected. Within 3 to 6 months, many inmates become proficient in their skills they choose, driven by the hope that life beyond prison can be different from the one they left behind. That hope received another boost with the commissioning of a bakery and workshop facility as part of this year's Nelson Mandela's International Day activities, supported by the United Nations Office on Drug and Crime.
As well, the legacy of Nelson Mandela, because they are focusing on rehabilitation and reintegration, which ultimately serves all the communities. If we give the persons who are in the prison a second chance, if they develop life skills that are relevant outside on the market, this is what ultimately makes society safer and brings dignity into the prisons.
Prisons officials say that while prison may take away a person's freedom for a period, it does not have to take away the possibility of a future, hence the need to build inmates for tomorrow. Samuel Yeboah Adams, TV3 News, in Nsawam.
Out of more than 10 quarry sites inspected across 2 municipalities in the Greater Accra region, only one was found to have valid operating documents. The operation, conducted by the Minerals Commission's Small Mining Scale and Industrial Minerals Unit, was also revealed that nearly every truck transporting gravel and laterite was operating without the required permits and weigh-in documents. Joseph Armstrong picks up the story.
This is a quarry site located in Chao Sudoku in the Greater Accra region. Upon the arrival of the task force, some foreign nationals suspected to be associated with the quarry fled the premises. A search of the site storage facilities by personnel from the National Anti-Illegal Mining Operations Secretariat, NIMOS, led to the discovery of 5 pump-action guns. Further search by the task force uncovered hideouts used by some workers, including Chinese nationals. However, none of those present claimed ownership of the firearms. A police officer assigned to provide security at the site also denied any knowledge of the weapons. Following the discovery, the leader of the operations from Minerals Commission ordered the immediate temporary closure of the quarry.
We wanted to just invite them to present their licenses and their statutory payments and other permits. But how the situation has turned, we are asking for immediate closure of this place, effective immediately.
The team then inspected several other quarry sites selected at random. None was able to produce valid operating documents except one. At some of the sites, operating licenses had expired as far back as 2022, yet quarrying activities were still ongoing.
It has expired. They are operating illegally, but we are having a human face to how we deal with this issue. We have given them Friday. They should come and redeem themselves.
Some workers at the quarry site expressed frustration over their working conditions. They told the news team they work 7 days a week from 5 a.m. to 5 p.m. without insurance coverage or personal protective equipment. The findings raised concerns about the enforcement of labor standards and the safety and welfare of workers in the sector. The operation also targeted trucks transporting laterite from forest areas without authorization. Inspectors found out that none of the trucks had the required permit or the appropriate weighing document.
You don't know whether the place is licensed.
My brother, please.
Yours is just you
know what? If you will go a Fienya to take the stone, this is a book that they are giving us. So we don't know that here is illegal.
The exercise raises further questions about the effectiveness of routine monitoring and enforcement within the quarrying industry. Maswal Yao Akpene Klu, Deputy Chief Executive Officer of the Minerals Commission in charge of small-scale mining and industrial minerals, spoke to TV3.
So people are milking the states at the expense of the commission, and sooner than later we will catch up with them. So we knew that something of this nature was happening, but not to this extent. The Minerals Commission is not embarking on a shutdown agenda. The Minerals Commission is very ready and willing to work with all operators, but we shall not allow you to flout the laws of this country. We have given you from now to the 6th of August to come to the commission. On 6th of August, we'll be here waiting for all quarries to come and do the needful.
The operation was carried out by the Minerals Commission with support from the National Anti-Illegal Mining Operations Secretariat, 9 months. Joseph Armstrong, Gold, TV3, Shai Osudoku.
Now, engineering experts have stressed that Ghana's ambition to implement a successful 24-hour economy will depend largely on a reliable power sector and strong engineering systems. The call was made at the second edition of the Professor Engineer Douglas Boating Lecture Series, organized by the Ghana Institution of Engineering.
Engineering professionals are calling for stronger collaborations between the country's power sector and engineering institutions to drive Ghana's industrial transformation. Speaking at the second Professor Engineer Douglas Boating Lecture Series, President-elect of the Ghana Institution of Engineering, Engineer Sophia Tijani, described the lecture series as a platform for shaping conversations on engineering-led national development.
We teamed up with Professor Douglas Boating to offer a platform where industry leaders will come together, to think about the challenges that we face as a country, the challenges that hinders our development as a country, and then look at the opportunities in there that we can harness, to do something about it, to provide solutions to move our country forward.
Professor Engineer Douglas Boating stressed that the success of Ghana's proposed 24-hour economy cannot be achieved without the contribution of engineering. He noted that reliable energy infrastructure, technical expertise, and efficient industrial systems are critical to sustaining round-the-clock economic activity.
Without VRA, there's no 24-hour economy, period. That's why VRA is working very, very hard to make sure that they never sleep. We are integral part of the 24-hour economy, engineers, and engineers are within VRA to really make sure that things are working. The power is on, because if it's off, there is no 24-hour economy. When power sleeps, the whole nation sleeps.
This is still News 360. Let's find out how the weather is likely to pan out in the next 24 hours.
It is brought to you by Syntex Tank.
The business news segment is brought to you by MTN. 4 points by Sheraton Accra Airport Hotel.
Good evening. Welcome to the business segment on News 360 with me, Menu Afol. In our first story, Center for Environmental Management and Sustainable Energy has strongly urged the state interest and governance authority to enforce transparency regulations and compel state-owned enterprises within Ghana's energy and petroleum sectors to publish their outstanding annual financial statements. Now, the call was made by Executive Director at CEMSC, Benjamin Isia, who expressed deep worry over the persistent culture of non-disclosure among key state agencies.
Speaking on the governance of the country's energy sector, Insia revealed that more than 90% of state-owned entities in the power and petroleum sectors have failed to publish their 2025 financial statements, despite being past the midpoint of 2026.
Aside TOR, which have done quite well in publishing, GOEL, and then Petroleum Hub Development Corporation, the other state entities in the energy sector must also publish their financial performance for the year under review of 2025. Because if they are not able to publish it now, how do we track whether they are performing well financially or they are not performing well financially? And how do we even recommend reforms that will ensure that the sector is becoming very sustainable in serving the interests of the state as well as serving the interests of other utility providers in the country.
Insia criticized the selective disclosure practices of these public corporations, arguing that the absence of regular audited financial reports makes it virtually impossible for the public to track the strategic and financial health of the sector.
State Interest and Governance Authority must make sure that they publish it. We've observed that they are being selective in publishing their financial performance for 2025, but we shouldn't be selective. For good corporate governance practices framework, it is key that state entities become accountable to the people of Ghana.
Under standard corporate governance frameworks, public agencies must remain accountable to Ghanaian citizens. Therefore, SIGA must immediately step up its regulatory oversight to address this ongoing transparency deficit.
Away from that, country senior partner of PwC Ghana, Vish Ashiagbo, is projecting relative stability for the cedi in the near term, citing the Bank of Ghana's continued foreign exchange interventions and improving macroeconomic fundamentals. This is against the backdrop of Reuters reporting that local currency could remain under short-term pressure as strong dollar demand from oil importers continues to outstrip supply in the interbank foreign exchange market.
If rates are falling, what that means is that you must play on scale, right? You must be that's if you have the wherewithal, you must do more of what you're doing and play a volume game. There's other things you can do in terms of playing a funding game where you focus on, let's say, bigger corporate transactions or things like infrastructure deals. We've seen the cedi come under a little bit of pressure recently, but we've also seen in the last couple of days Bank of Ghana injecting some dollar into the market to stabilize the cedi. So from a medium-term point of view, we continue to believe that the cedi will continue to operate within the current band in which it's operating. We don't expect to see any major appreciation or depreciation one way or the other.
We'll wrap up the segment with updates from the forex and commodities markets. I am Minu Afo.
check your mom before you question my ability. I can't complain, yo.
And coming up now, tidbits from the world of arts and entertainment.
Reggae music rocking my bones. My bones.
The global reggae community is mourning the passing of legendary Jamaican roots reggae artist Fantan Mojah at the age of 49. His death has sent shockwaves through the music world, with fans and fellow musicians paying tribute to a voice that championed faith, resilience, and conscious living. Known for classics such as Hail the King, Hungry, Stronger, and Rasta Got Soul, Fantan Mojah inspired generations with music that promoted hope, justice, and Rastafarian values. For many Ghanaians, the loss is especially painful. Just last December, Fantan Mojah performed at Stoneboy's 10 Beam Festival in Accra, delivering a memorable performance that celebrated the enduring musical and cultural bond between Jamaica and Ghana. As reggae lovers around the world honor his legacy, one message echoes above all: rest in power, Fantan Mojah. Your voice will never be forgotten.
Most I deliver me.
Ahead of its UK release this Friday. Adapted from Homer's classic poem, the film stars Matt.
And that's it for the entertainment and news segment here on News 360. My name is Noella Donko.
Time now to bring you international news. And Andy Burnham says he's finalizing who will be in his cabinet ahead of becoming Prime Minister on Monday. Speaking at a special party conference, Burnham pledged to give people hope back, saying the UK had turned its back on working-class communities. He also promised the most significant moment in UK politics for 40 years, indicating he is ready. On selecting his cabinet, Burnham said he hadn't made any decisions yet about who will be in that top team. Andy Burnham will become the country's 7th Prime Minister in a decade.
Interesting developments happening in the UK there.
Right.
Hopefully by Monday, they will have a new Prime Minister. We'll update you on all of those developments by the time. That's it for the bulletin. My name is Martin Asiedu Date. Thanks for your company.
I am Bernice Abubedu Lansa. Do have a good evening.